If there is one practical thing that Democrats can do right now that would help them regain power, it's never speak to Trump in person. No, I'm kidding. That's stupid. No, it's this. Inspire your moderates to vote in the primaries. Get that base excited. You have the numbers. After Congressman Moulton made his comment about his daughter not getting run over, he added, "But as a Democrat, I'm supposed to be afraid to say that." Well, then change what you're supposed to be afraid.
The Democratic Party is looking more fractured than ever, and Bill Maher isn't even trying to soften the blow anymore. You might think he'd show a little sympathy toward a party that seems lost. No clear leader, no unified direction, no compelling message. But that's not what happened. Instead, the host of Real Time with Bill Maher unleashed a brutal critique, calling out Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and the broader Democratic establishment for failing to absorb the lessons from their last painful defeat. And let's just say, he didn't hold back. Let's break it all down.
All the time. Why haven't you ever had Hillary or Bill Clinton on? Why didn't you have Kamala on during the last campaign? You think we don't ask? We ask these people every week. They say no. It took 8 years and a petition to get Obama on. And these are people, all people I voted for. Think about that. They're afraid to come on the show of a guy who voted for them.
Maher began by venting his frustration with a party he's supported for years. He's voted for them, backed them publicly, and used his influence to boost their causes. Yet despite that loyalty, many Democrats have kept their distance from his show. Over and over again, he's invited them to join the conversation on Real Time, and over again, silence. According to Maher, the reason is simple. They don't want to face difficult questions. Instead of stepping into open debate, they avoid it entirely, staying inside a political bubble where their views go unchallenged. To Maher, that behavior reveals a deeper issue. He believes parts of the modern left have grown overly defensive and uncomfortable with real intellectual pushback. But that raises another question. Do Republicans behave the same way?
They show up. And when they do, they take their beating like a man. He went down to Mar-a-Lago and kissed his ass after that.
Oh, bullshit.
When the Mueller report came out, I feel like you mischaracterized it, and I feel that was shady. But you campaigned for election deniers in 2022. This I do not forgive. The Republicans, including you, January 6th, etc., are the ones who are no longer willing to play by the rules of democracy. Amendment 22, no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. And yet you keep talking about Trump's maybe you should have this. Here,
Republicans haven't exactly had perfect showings on Maher's stage either. Some have made strong arguments, others have stumbled badly, and plenty have probably taken their shots at Maher along the way. But that's not really the point. The key difference, he says, is that they still show up. They're willing to sit across from him, defend their positions, and risk looking foolish in front of a national audience. Whether they win the debate or lose it, they're willing to engage. And in Maher's view, that willingness to step into the arena, even when the odds aren't in your favor, shows a level of toughness that's missing from many Democrats today.
AOC on the show, and Mondami and Elizabeth Warren. But I can't subpoena the guests. And I can't fix that what the Democrats are scared of more than anything else, I mean, obviously besides gluten, is being primaried from the far left, even though most Democrats are not far left. They're mild-mannered and moderate, at least at my bathhouse.
Another concern Maher highlighted is the growing influence of the far left wing of the Democratic Party. Critics argue that this faction has become louder and more powerful than the party's traditional leadership. Instead of pushing back, the Democratic establishment often appears to bend under pressure from activist groups. The result, according to Maher's argument, is a party that spends more time trying to satisfy its most vocal supporters than representing a broader coalition of voters. What the party needs, he suggests, isn't another leader eager to please the loudest voices, but someone willing to draw a line and say, enough.
Practical thing that Democrats can do right now that would help them regain power, it's never speak to Trump in person. No, I'm kidding. That's stupid. No, it's this. Inspire your moderates to vote in the primaries. Get that base excited. You have the numbers. After Congressman Moulton made his comment about his daughter not getting run over, he added, But as a Democrat, I'm supposed to be afraid to say that. Well, then change what you're supposed to be afraid.
Maher also points to a shift happening quietly inside the Democratic coalition. Over the last several years, many moderates who once identified comfortably with the party have begun drifting away. Some now identify as centrists, while others have even leaned toward the right. These voters aren't necessarily gone forever, but they do feel pushed out by rhetoric and policies they see as too extreme. If the Democratic National Committee wants those voters back, Maher believes it will eventually have to create some distance between itself and the most radical elements of its base. Until then, moderates may keep watching from the sidelines.
Of the power and influence to be able to, like, usher in socialism?
He definitely has the power and influence to elect J.D. Vance or whoever is the Republican candidate next time. It is a walking commercial for the Republican Party
I think
nationally.
the Republicans are going to...
When you let the Democrats, socialists, and now they're actually calling themselves socialists, when you let them take over a major American city, this is what you get.
Maher's warning becomes even sharper when discussing future elections. He argues that if Democrats were to rally behind a far-left candidate heading into 2028, they could be setting themselves up for a major loss. Names like J.D. Vance already loom large on the Republican side, and Maher believes a highly ideological Democratic nominee could alienate a huge portion of the electorate. Younger voters, particularly Gen Z, might find those policies appealing, but elections aren't decided by one generation alone. Millennials, Gen X, and baby boomers still make up a massive share of the voting population. If those groups feel pushed away, the math simply doesn't work in the Democrats' favor.
A psycho who all they care about is controlling you, they're very good at diagnosing problems. Yeah. They're very good at figuring out what your weak points are. And that's, I would argue, what a lot of these people are doing.
That's right.
They recognize that if you can focus on these problems, then you can, use that dissatisfaction to gain power for yourself.
Critics of these far-left figures argue that their messaging often focuses more on amplifying frustration than solving problems. They point to flaws in the system, sometimes very real ones, but instead of offering pragmatic solutions, they lean heavily into outrage and sweeping promises. For younger audiences unfamiliar with the historical outcomes of similar policies, those promises can sound inspiring, but skeptics warn that big ideological experiments often come with unintended consequences: economic slowdown, reduced opportunity, and deeper political divisions.
For a guy like you, who you spent your whole life talking about how government tries to do too much, which it does, and spends too much, and here you have Trump, who is the Republican, who is aggrandizing more power than anybody, as we just talked about. And on the other side, you have the guy running in New York, Mandami, right? Okay, who's like a straight up communist. I mean, he is. He talks about, the things that communists say. I mean, he wants free grocery stores, free buses.
I want him to win.
You want him to win?
Yeah. I think every 20 years or so.
Wait.
We need Every 20 years or so, we need a conspicuous, confined experiment with socialism so we can crack it up again.
That's why many observers who study political history remain cautious. They've seen similar ideas before and remember how those experiments played out in different parts of the world. From their perspective, the concern isn't theoretical. It's based on historical precedent. Their hope isn't that radical figures gain more power, but that voters pause long enough to look beyond the slogans and evaluate the long-term impact of the policies being proposed.
Slogan used to be, workers of the world unite, you have nothing to lose but your chains. The new socialist slogan is, trust us, this time it won't be a mess. So, when the post-war Labour government in Britain was about to get started, one of their leading lights was a socialist named Nurian Bevan. He said, what could go wrong? He said, we have a nation bedded on coal, surrounded by fish. It would take an organizational genius to have a shortage of either. In 3 years, they had a shortage of both.
Supporters of socialism often frame it as a vision of fairness, a system where resources are shared and no one is left behind. But critics argue that reality rarely matches that ideal. While capitalism certainly has flaws, it also creates opportunities for innovation, entrepreneurship, and upward mobility. Socialism, they argue, often concentrates power in the hands of political elites rather than distributing it evenly. The result can be a system where ordinary citizens have fewer incentives to work, create, or take risks, ultimately leading to economic stagnation.
Suspects on the far left that the saying is, when you're in a hole, stop digging, not keep digging. Talk about doubling down on what got you fucked in the first place. Even the one concession I've heard a few people on the losing side offer, that liberals should stop saying the Trump voters are stupid, comes with a kind of unspoken parentheses. We know they are stupid, just don't say it.
Another issue fueling the political divide is perception. Many on the left tend to portray conservatives as uninformed or backward, while many on the right see liberals as arrogant and out of touch. That mutual stereotyping only deepens the divide. Maher warns that dismissing millions of voters as ignorant isn't just insulting, it's politically dangerous. When one side underestimates the other, it often gets blindsided at the ballot box.
Bad news for you. They don't have a monopoly on stupid. You wear Queers for Palestine t-shirts and masks 2 years after the pandemic ended. And you can't define woman, I mean person who menstruates. You're the teachers' union education party, and you've turned schools and colleges into a joke. You just lost a crazy contest to an actual crazy person.
In the end, Maher's broader argument isn't just about policies, it's about attitude. He believes the Democratic Party risks losing ground if it continues to ignore criticism, sideline moderates, and elevate ideology over practical solutions. Political movements that assume they're morally superior, he warns, often stop listening, and that's when they start losing. Whether Democrats adjust course or double down on their current path could shape the future of American politics. And with that, we wrap up today's discussion. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more bold commentary like this, make sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.